time once again to slip into your camo, grab your bow, and join us out in the field for another episode of the Up North Journal, presented by PSE Archery. The Up North Journal crew is knocked and ready to rock for another exciting adventure. So let's step outside and hit the trail.
This episode of the Up North Journal podcast is brought to you by PSE Archery,
Spot Shooters Archery,
Easy Cut,
Packer Max,
Hunter's Blend Coffee,
Scent Lock,
Scent Blocker,
Limb Walker Game Calls,
Buck Baits,
Gut Check,
Stanislavski Release Aids,
Copper John,
Fourth Arrow Camera Arms,
Wind Sense Vapor Hunting Products,
and Rebel 6 Rubs. And don't forget, you can catch us in syndication at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on goodtalkradio.com. Welcome back to another episode of the Up North Journal podcast, everybody. I'm host Mike Adams, sitting in the cabin tonight on a Sunday night, 22nd of September.
last day of summer.
It is.
At, I think it's some 3-something in the morning, it'll become fall.
Well, it felt like summer. I tell you that. It was blazing hot today.
Today and yesterday.
So we got the pool closed, got the yard cut. With the pool being closed, that means it's hunting season.
And with hunting season, I know there's early season going on right now. It's got to be a little warm out there in those blinds.
I've seen people battling mosquitoes. They're having a hard time with it. So I think I'm going to wait.
Watch out for the
Triple E? Yeah.
Triple E.
Yeah, that's right.
That was like the big thing at the football game on Friday night.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I know a lot of the schools are spraying. They're going gangbusters with that. So.
Right.
Hey, Kyle Sharp's in the house tonight.
And Terry's in the house. So that's cool. But you know what? We're 9 days out from the Michigan deer season.
Right.
Early seasons have kicked off and everything. And your question kind of leads us to where we want to go. Mm-hmm. You know? Do you use a deer call? Well, we got to find somebody to make a deer call, maybe.
Well, early indications are 2/3 of the people say yes.
Well, there you go. I think we need to find somebody that can make a deer call.
Well, I think we can find that. And who might that be?
You know, I think we need to go across town.
All the way across town. The other side of London.
Right.
Hey, Paul. How you doing, Paul?
Good.
Pronounce your last name
How
for it. Pronounce your last name for it so I don't butcher it.
Schweitzer.
Schweitzer. There you go. Paul Schweitzer from JPO Game Calls. So, you know, we found you out in Lapeer County at Woods and Water Show and found out you're literally 5 miles from the Up North Journal cabin. How did we not know that you were our neighbor? I don't get that.
I don't. I run silent, run deep. You know, I get to the shows, but I don't have much time to do anything else.
and to tell you the truth, he was actually introduced by Buck's Baits to us.
That's right.
And we actually found out at Bowfest with Buck Baits. He says, "Oh, let me get him a call. He lives right around here."
Right.
Well, when he meant right around here, he
meant right around here. Yeah. So you make game calls. You know what? But let's just jump into the fray tonight. What kind of game calls do you make?
I make all different types of game calls. I started off about 4 years ago. A little prior to that, trying to refine my designs, but really got into the public about 3 or 4 years ago. I got into duck calls and goose calls and crow calls and some turkey pots and whatnot. But that's really where the genesis of my call series started was more on what I would consider my utility call line.
So did when you thought about starting this, is it one of those ideas that you were sitting there, you were doing what you were doing, and then you're looking at this call going, I can make this better? It's not what I want. I'll just make it myself. What's that thought when you're sitting, whatever you were doing, just it pops in your head that you're going to make calls?
You know, I think it's what everybody does. I want to make my own call. There's something about that raw, sportsman in you that wants to go do everything. I want to cut my own duck call. I want to make my own decoys. Everything except maybe build my own shotgun. It's just I come from a family of woodworkers, construction builders, and whatnot, and wood has always, that type of product have always kind of been a part of my life. And I said, I really would like to honor the memories of the hunts with my dad and my family by creating my own call. So that's really where everything had kind of started. So,
well, take that a step further. Have you ever thought about making your own bow or your own arrows?
In the short, no. That's way too complicated for me.
Okay, fair enough. I just wonder how far we're going to venture into this, but
no, this is about as much time as I have time for, as much as I can tolerate right now. I think my wife and my kids would probably shoot me if I got involved much more.
Fair enough. I know how that goes. So, but getting into your call, so you're sitting in the blind. You think about this, something I want to do to honor the hunts of the past. You want to make things a little better. Talk a little bit about when you first started. What was some of the first things you made?
Well, I got into, duck hunting has always been a huge passion of mine. And that's really where I started. I created some single and some double reed calls. And, some of the calls that I had in the past always carried double lanyard loops, one for the barrel and one for the keg. And the way wood swells or the way the top tapers are for the kegs of the calls would lend itself to falling out or dropping down or dropping out of the call. And I actually damaged a little bit of hearing in my left ear because the keg during the hunt fell out, and I was reaching down in the water right at the beginning of season, and my hunting partners opened up on some teal, and that sound just echoed off the boat and right into my ear, and for 18 months I couldn't hear much out of that. So I was
nice
a little bent that yeah, exactly. So that keg dropped out of the barrel like that, and I said I wanted to make something a little bit more robust. So I started with my duck call, and I made some modifications and put the O-ring on the inside of the barrel instead of putting O-rings on the keg, which creates it reduces that amount of stress from the keg and the banding that would go on that keg. So the O-rings in part of the barrel instead. So that's kind of where I started at, and then I kind of built from there. I like the single and the double reed style calls. Probably the single calls or single reed calls are my favorite style of call. I'm much more of a quiet type caller, more of like a marsh call, close quarters type of call, not so much open water. I think that the call itself is really meant to embellish and enhance the spread of the decoys, and not be the center of the call of the hunt itself.
And speaking of calls, we got a question right off the bat. We showed a picture of some of the calls that you did have. Do you have custom colors available, or just the stock ones to order from?
So I'll do custom on request. I have stock colors that I carry. Primarily, I do the laminate style calls, or the laminate style woods right now. They hold up really well during the turning process. They're very stable. They sand out beautifully, very, very close to an acrylic style. But if people were looking for a specific style wood, I've done them in the past. I actually had 12 calls, 12 deer grunts that I created for a customer, and he sent me all of his own wood and wanted to turn from parts of his old farm. So we'll do anything. Just email and we'll take care of it.
All right, so there you go, Kyle. You can email him, talk it up with him. If you want a special color, get a hold of him. Paul will be happy to do it for you.
Yeah, I'm showing the video here, the time lapse. That's pretty cool. If you building the call, building the barrels and everything right here on the lathe, doing the sanding. So you talked about the laminates. They tend to hold up better, you said, during the turning process?
Absolutely. They don't swell. They're not as subject to swelling that the wood. What happens to wood when it gets humid, and just that process will make them swell a little bit. So the laminates, because they've got a lot of glue in the material, it helps to kind of reduce that swelling. It makes it more stable, and the glue in the material also prevents chipping or checks from the turning process. A lot of times you'll find, depending on the style of wood, that when you first start and create your call, design the call, by the time you get done sanding, the call doesn't look like anything you started with, because you had to sand all the pits out, or you have to put a bunch of acrylic glue in to try to fill those voids, and it just gets to be a very laborious process. So.
And I got to imagine, too, out in the field, like you said, with the laminates holding up, especially for, I imagine, a waterfowl call, the weather we hunt in is not the greatest. So you got big temperature swings. You got a lot of wet weather. So it keeps all that a little more stable, I imagine, right?
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep.
Now, for guys who have seen calls, maybe thinking about a call and not really understanding the lingo of things we're talking about, talk about the difference between a double reed and a single reed call, and how the difference in it and using them, how is one a little more difficult than the other.
Sure. So the difference between a single reed call and a double reed call has everything to do with the Duralar. I don't know if you can see this or not. The Duralar, the Mylar reeds that are part of the keg, or part of the keg itself. The double reeds will have a secondary reed that insets, or it's about roughly an eighth of an inch shorter than the reed that's the primary, the one that's closest to the porting of the call. That double reed gives a little bit more of a raspy sound, but with that rasp comes, and because there's an extra piece of material in there, it also lends itself to being a little bit more difficult to blow, because you have to vibrate or excite both reeds versus just obviously a single reed just to excite it by itself.
So it takes a little more pressure?
A little bit more pressure, yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you, you got any more questions or anything?
Well, nothing right now, but could you, you talked about the reed, double reed. Could you go over the other parts, the keg and barrel?
Sure. So there's two parts to a call. Usually this is the barrel, and then we've got the keg or the stopper. Generally, they'll call the stopper, in duck calls, they'll call this the stopper, and in goose calls, they'll call this portion of the call the keg. I kind of intermix them, using one and the same for reasons that we'll talk about a little bit later in the series of my call designs.
All right, cool. Because when somebody's starting out and you're talking about kegs and you're talking about barrels, and I'm thinking we're going to a party or something. It's like, what are we doing here?
Bring out the beer pong, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, so you're taking a keg to the woods. Okay, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, we're all in.
Right? Right. But yeah, it's just some of those things that, is news to me, and I like to hear that. And like you said, the single reed, double reed thing. So.
Well, I picked up a little bit. My son, he was into waterfowling early on, and he's a pretty good caller. He's been calling competitions and things, and doesn't do it a lot anymore, but I learned a lot just by listening to him, watching him, having him explain to me. But, I know there's people out there probably listening that's like, well, what are we talking about here? How does that make a difference, or why does it make a difference? So I just want to make sure we got some of that information out there. But sure. I'll tell you what, we're close here to a break, so let's go ahead for right now. Let's throw it to a break, and we come back. You've got a design that I think that's probably the biggest thing you want to talk about tonight. Am I right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yep. All right, so we're going to step outside. We'll take our first break. We'll come back. We'll continue the conversation with Paul. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has reinvented the way you buy bows.
From now on, you can make the most educated decision possible
by basing your bow choice specifically on your shooting needs and goals.
All you need to do is ask yourself, what kind of shooter am I? What do I want to achieve?
PSE will help find the right category for you.
So, what kind of shooter are you?
Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Second segment of the show. Before we get going to the next part, I do want to mention that huntersblendcoffee.com. You go over it and use the UNJ promo code. It will save 10% on your order, and that is the preferred coffee of Up North Journal. That's what we're drinking tonight. So
that's right. And don't forget, we've got a couple other promo codes out there for Buck Baits and Rebel 6 Rubs as we speak. You go over to Buck Baits, use our code Up North Journal, and you'll get 20% of your order upon checkout. And then if you go over to Rebel 6, the code is now working. North Journal, you'll get 20% off of your checkout there as well. So help them out by helping us out, letting them know where you got it from.
Absolutely. All right. We're back with Paul. And when we went to break, we kind of alluded to something with a design.
Right. And before you go there, Paul, anybody for the first segment, if they want to start going to check out your calls, where can we find to take a look at your calls, or where can we go?
Absolutely. If you go to jpogamecalls.com, that's our website, and we've got our assortment of our call products there from what I call the utility call line. This is more of a dedicated, a call is what a call is, a duck call, goose call, deer grunts, all the way into our Omni series where we can talk about that here coming up.
Yeah, actually, you just kind of leading into that. So that's what I've always understood is you want a deer call, you go buy a deer grunt tube. If you want a duck call, you buy a duck call. If you want a predator call, you buy a predator call, so on and so forth. But you've really got something here that you showed us at the Woods and Water Show that's very unique and something that you hold dear and close to your heart. Go ahead and talk a little bit about the Omni series.
Yeah, absolutely. So going to the shows really educated me more than I think I educated customers themselves. People ask me for an owl call or a woodpecker call, and I'm very proud of my duck call and my goose calls and deer grunts and crow calls and I don't have a woodpecker call, or I don't have a coyote call, and the predator community came out so strongly with to me asking for, what do you have for predator? And I said, well, I thought you used electronic calls, and the standard type calls or the call products that I would carry wouldn't really satisfy that niche. And I was corrected sternly that they need to have a call around their neck because the electronics can freeze up, the batteries die. It's just people operate and hunt differently, and they want to be more agile and don't want to carry a bunch of stuff. So
right.
That was kind of really where the genesis of Omni started, and that I didn't want to go through and develop a call just for predator. And I looked at all the calls that I had generally built in the past and decided, if I challenge the norm just a little bit and enlarge the call, make the inner diameters a little bit larger, and I extend the lengths of the calls just a little bit, I could do something and satisfy a lot of different types of applications for the call industry. And that's where Omni was really born. So Omni is a modular style call system where you start with a barrel, and then you basically build whatever you want. We have different types of accessories or attachments, from the barrel itself to the bellow system that we have for squirrel. We have optional baffling accessories. And what happens is this call will change the airflow of the call changes direction based on how you use it. So conventionally in a duck call, this would be what the call would look like. This is the mouthpiece, this would be the exhaust. And in other applications, like the predator call, this has the reed attachment. The call is assembled like this, and now that mouthpiece side of the call becomes the exhaust side of the call, and with that I can also introduce optional baffling into that call to darken the tone of the call. It's just kind of build your own series just based on the accessories that I have. And I'll continue to build those accessories in. For example, when I dropped my keg out of in the water and I had a barrel left, I said, well, maybe someone has a keg that they really like, but their barrel is no longer usable. I came up with a converter kit so that I can take any 5/8 style keg or stopper for duck hunting and apply it in Omni, so now you still have a nice, well-balanced design call, and you're using the stopper that you've maybe had for years or haven't found the other piece to it. So the other portion that's critical, or a key part to this call, is the Omni Series keg. And the Omni Series keg is designed in a specific manner that a large part of the more obscure types of call designs are able to be designed into this because I'm doing very specific dimensioning with this type of a keg. So, for example, when people ask for an owl call, I would use the Omni keg for owl. I'll have the owl reed, and then inside I can put optional muting or baffling down inside the bottom part of this call that will soften the tone. So without the muting rubber in the bass, it's a very loud call. If you put that mute piece in, it softens that call out tremendously. So we'll do open reed cow elk, you name it. We pretty much can design it into that Omni series. And my accessories and my attachments are going to grow with the product as requests come out. I got a few ideas for 2020 coming out that I'll be looking forward to share in January.
Okay. Well, you sent a picture over, and we showed it here once, but I'm going to show it again. It shows basically, to me, it's kind of like a Lego system. I mean, or maybe even like a Picatinny rail, if you want to think about it in rifle situations, where you put all these different attachments on it to make it into what you want it to. And that's, you've got all the different inserts here on this photo, but you've got the one barrel that all these work with, and you've got all these different calls. I mean, from what you're showing here on this photo, that what you guys sent over to us, can you name what all is in that group right there?
So that's the one that's kind of the circle one. Would be the barrel. There would be the bellow attachment. It would look like this for the squirrel. There would be squirrel, or the part of the Omni is the squirrel keg. So you have your squirrel reed that would go with Omni. So these pieces, if you can dream it up,
you can build it.
Then we can build it, right? So that's the squirrel portion of the Omni series. Just keep in mind that these dimensions are 1/2 inch and 3/4, 3/4 and 7/8 on the designs, so that it allows me to be very specific in how I do the designs.
Sweet.
So the picture that you showed was some deer grunts, duck calls, open reed cow elk. The one with the latex on it is actually a fawn elk cry for predator hunting.
Okay.
We have a couple different style of open reed calls as well. The white Duralar, or Mylar, I'm sorry, is an open reed cow elk bite, but the predator community has also embraced that call tremendously. They really like the sound of that call. They like the stiffness of that style reed. I have the Duralar predator call next to it with the green ring on it. We also changed the sounds of that particular call just by changing the readout itself. We have Duralar and Mylar reeds available, which deepen the tone of the call just by changing out the reed style. Crow calls, we'll do rabbit distress, squirrel. We'll also do what I'm very proud of, and the 11 o'clock area is the hybrid goose flute, and a standard short reed goose flute. I'm very proud of these type of designs. The standard short reed goose flute, standard short reed goose keg mates with the barrel, and that call looks very reminiscent of any of the other style calls. I do aluminum tenons in all of my calls to make sure that we don't part the keg while inserting those guts. It's a standard 5/8 diameter tenon, so if you have a 5/8 gut that you want to use, or a goose cert, that's what that uses. And then my short reed hybrid goose flute is based off the same principles, the same ideas, except with this call you can train the keg to get the train sounds, or tune the keg to get the train sounds that you're looking for, without having to baffle and provide a lot of effort, because by changing the dimension of this keg automatically gives you the train sound. So you just have to focus on making the break into the high-pitched noise, and you let this thing do all the growling for you.
Yeah, to me, it's ingenious. It's so cool to think that you got all these different parts and you can interchange them out, and and use that same keg or barrel.
It's like the
barrel. I'm sorry.
You said Legos. I like to think of it as Tinker Toys.
Yeah, Tinker
calls,
Toys.
Right?
Yeah,
all this and that, and put this together, put that together.
Yeah.
You said you had a fawn distress for predator call.
Yeah, and I'm trying to introduce different sounds.
We'll give it a whirl. Let's hear it. Chris Kreiner's on. That's why I want him to do this.
I don't have the fawn distress.
Oh, it was in the photo, but he doesn't have it with him. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
But that call is an interesting introduction. in that I'm really pulling the different ideas and the concepts from Colorado.
Okay.
They use fawn elk for bear hunting, predator hunting out in the mountains. I said, well, why can't we introduce something like that here? We do the standard rabbit distress and the coyote portions, but the fawn elk is something that's new. So that's kind of stuff that I like to do is get new sounds out. I'm always looking forward to bringing new ideas and reaching out to the community and going to the shows. I always am amazed by the style of calls that people are looking for.
Well, what that tells me is you're a Michigan guy, but you're not thinking Michigan. You think outside the box, obviously, to come up with this design. And I got to assume, from what I know, you're the only one that's doing this. Am I right?
I hope so. I felt so passionately about it that I applied for patents. Back in 2 years ago, we applied for a provisional patent for 1 year, and then we filed formally right around January 15th of 2019 here. So with about 18 months, we'll know if that stands, that holds up. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to a red ribbon.
That would be awesome.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
But like, not only, like I said, the design's cool, but you're thinking outside the box. You're not thinking just, like I said, Michigan. You're thinking, all across the United States. You're taking ideas from different people, different hunting situations or styles of hunting, and putting it into your repertoire and making different calls.
Right.
And that really says a lot about your thinking. You're starting to think, like you said, Mike, just not just Michigan, but he's thinking outside, besides the box, outside the state lines. Mm-hmm. He's thinking Colorado, wherever. But this could go worldwide, no problem at all.
Yeah, I mean, have you had any requests from say Africa for? I don't know if they use calls over there. I imagine they got some kind of calls that they may use. But
I've heard of a few calls that aren't really North American. I don't know where to go with that just yet.
Oh, okay. Well, see, the question has been then put to you. You got to figure it out, and you'll be sitting there.
Absolutely.
You'll be sitting there one day, and all of a sudden you're just going to start turning on that lathe, and all of a sudden it's going to pop into your head, and then you never know where that can go.
Yep, that's what I that's my weekends. That's the stuff I like to do when I'm not at my day job. So
there you go. I hear you there.
Well, the other thing that I like, and I actually heard through Buck's Bait, is the fact that you've got something that, for people wanting to get into a call, and maybe it's a youth who doesn't have a lot of money. He's got $20 because he's mowed lawns, $30, $40, whatever. He's worked hard for that money, and he doesn't have money to spend on a high-end call, $100, $150 goose call or duck call, and truthfully, those, you're afraid to drop them. You're afraid that they're going to get chipped or broken or whatever, or you lose them. But you get them started, and then you also got that high end. So you're kind of catering to both markets, right?
Absolutely. And the idea, since the barrel is the common piece to the call series, a deer grunt accessories, it's a $15 part. I'm not charging for an entire series. That's the whole point of the Omni, is you buy the different pieces as your hunts change, and you're not spending an arm and a leg to get into a new hobby.
Right, exactly. And I tell you what, at Woods and Water, when that young gentleman pulled out his money for the call, he was so happy that he was able to buy it with his own money, and he walked off smiling. And
yeah, well, kids, they got to have some skin in the game, and this is one way you get them started. I know my son was the same way, and then all of a sudden it led into several $100s from one call to the next and the next, because he was really into the goose call. So, but
right, exactly. So
it can get up there, and that's where my beginnings was very similar, and then that $100 wasn't something I could afford, and I spent a bunch of money and put my $50 towards something, and I wasn't happy with it. Mm-hmm. So. The service side of the business that I do is appealing to me as well, because I like to hear what's going on. If people have a problem, I'm all over it. I generally really want to make sure that people are happy with what they've gotten. And I've even met with customers after the fact that said, I really like this call, this call barrel, but I really would like to find something different. So I met with them and got them all squared away, and they were happy. And that's that service side of of this call series is important to me too.
That's awesome. And you know what? And speaking of call series, we're bumping up here on a break. Next segment, we're going to talk about deer calls because we're only like 9 days away.
Yeah, we got to get some deer calls out there.
Yeah, we got to get some deer calls. We got to have him talk about his deer calls because it's that time.
It is. All right, we're going to step outside, take our next break. We'll be right back after this.
PSE Archery has always dominated the speed category. Now, the most revolutionary cam system ever to hit the market has perfected the shooting experience. Introducing PSE's Evolve Cam System, featuring extremely high let-off capabilities and the smoothest draw cycle in history. No other cam system has ever delivered this level of total comfort and total control. Experience PSE. Experience performance.
Welcome back. Third segment of the show. We just got a text.
I got a text
from your daughter.
because you started this.
No, Tim Cia started this.
Well, you're sitting in front of me and Tim's not on, so
Yeah.
you're going to get blamed for this. But my daughter tried the dragon dust and popcorn.
The Dragon Dust from Rebel 6. It's the spices.
It's
the
got the
rubs.
ghost pepper in it.
Yeah.
And she says it's a little spicier than I remember it. Couldn't do it. Quit after my nose started dripping and I started coughing. I'll stick with butter and salt.
Oh, it's so good though. This stuff on popcorn, it's like a potato chip, a name brand. You can't eat just one. You just got to keep going. But yeah, my nose will run, my eyes will water, and I just keep eating.
And Kyle Sharp referred as yes, sir. You must be a Duck fan.
Okay, Oregon Ducks. All right, well, whatever.
So we got to talk deer calls.
Deer grunts.
We're getting into that.
We are.
I wouldn't say this past weekend was a good reference that it's fall.
No, not at all.
But it's going to change eventually. And Paul, you got some deer calls. What do you got?
So in Omni, in my utility call line, I've got this a real nice taper lock design barrel with the keg on it, which is a trigger style adjustable so all you bow hunters out there, they don't want to move around and adjust that deer grunt by taking the call apart and adjusting the bands on it. This is a great call series to get because all you do is adjust the brass slider up and down, and that brass slider changes the tone of that call from a mature buck to the fawns and the doe bleats just by adjusting that slider.
Really?
That's in my utility call line, and then as a part of the Omni series, and there's calls to be that will be coming shortly. I have a deer grunt, doe bleat, and mature buck. Just buy the accessory piece for Omni.
Okay.
This gets you a nice deep low tone call. Just with this portion here. Next year, I'm going to be releasing a new version of a deer grunt. I don't want to spoil it too much, but it might be maybe a push-pull grunt. I'm on the final designs of that call for January 2020.
Okay, let's go back to the utility call. I got the picture up. So this little brass tab, and I see the little marks, the little notches on the side. So you slide that up and down, and that's what gives you the different tones.
Yep. Because the brass slider slides, this is the mark down, the lowest mark. As you slide it up, it changes the position of the brass on the reed itself, and that's what causes the inflection or the intonation change in that call.
So that way you don't have to pull that tube out or take it apart, move a rubber band, any of that kind of stuff to get the different tones. You can just, like you said, real little bit of movement. Minimal movement to get that to show the different or to have the different tones. That is awesome.
The limited amount of movement. If you're in a tree stand, if you're not in a blind, if you're out in the kind of the open and you don't want to move a lot, or you maybe you've got a buck and you kind of want to change what you want to. He's being a little buckish about it, and,
right?
You want to change the game a little bit. You won't have to move much.
Well, something else I noticed on the photo here of the deer grunt tubes, you got some engraving. Is this something else you do?
So customers have contacted me in the past asking about not only some wood products that they had laying around that had meaning to them, but also if they could have them engraved with their own personal engraved, either their own logos or their own just initials monograms. Is that the one?
Yep.
Yeah, monograms or initials. Yeah, which we do for a service. It's just whatever we can do to personalize and create something that has some meaning, and that's what this is all about.
Absolutely, and I totally agree with you, because there's people out there like you said in the first segment about remembering hunts with like certain people,
right?
And if you want to honor them, you can have a call made with their in this case initials made, and you can always think about them when you're working the call.
Right, that's pretty cool. Now, I just lost my train of thought where I was going to go. Okay, I just remember now. I'm getting old. I'm sorry, guys.
Yes, you are.
For the utility call, the deer grunt, what's the retail price on that?
Right now we've got 10%. We're going to do 10% till 11:15.
Okay.
Basically, these are show prices, $35.
Okay, $35. There you go.
There you go. $35 get you a great call.
We've got a coupon code that you can use. That's going to be on the Facebook site there, and we can certainly get that to you guys too. It'll be good for a few weeks, and we'll go from there.
We'll definitely get that up on our website and on our Facebook post. Definitely we'll get that out there that people can get by the 15th, get a discount on a call. Try out the product.
Well, absolutely.
Well, since the show, since you were at the show this year, in running the Omni Call and all that, out of everything, what's your biggest seller right now? What are people saying? Man, I got to have this. This is what I need. What is the go-to right now?
Probably, my hybrid goose flute is probably the largest, most popular seller right now.
Do you have it with you?
I do. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's hear it. You got to do it.
Yeah, we got to hear it.
Man, you guys put me on the spot. Well, these are all O-ringed calls too. I took the O-rings off just for me, just to make it a little easier. They fall apart without the O-rings part.
Right.
But it's a tunable keg, and if anybody needs it, I put a YouTube thing out there too, so you can go back and refer to it. But since it's trainable, you start with it in the compressed position, okay, and then you draw the call down until you hit that train. It's roughly about 6 to 8 clicks down for me. Everybody's got a different embouchure and one blows a little bit differently, so they'll find their spot. So I start with it high. There's the train sound right there. Up or down a click or two. Changes the inflection of the call without having to do anything different with the call. So if you got 3 or 4 buddies in the blind and you want to have the calls all be just a little bit different, you just run them a click or two up or down, and everybody's got their own unique sounding call.
So that way it sounds like obviously more than one bird. They don't all sound the same.
That's right. Yep.
Okay, that's pretty doggone cool.
That's awesome. And I can understand that because it is goose season.
It is goose season,
and
yeah.
So definitely the goose hunters are out there. I don't know how they're doing. I haven't heard.
I've heard them.
Have you?
I don't know how they're doing, but I have heard them.
Right.
And actually, what's pretty cool is the farmer behind. Well, it's not cool because he doesn't let me hunt. Matter of fact, he doesn't let anybody hunt. But we got a pond behind our house, and it is the roosting pond. And they know it's safe there.
Well, it's a sanctuary.
It is, and they come dumping in, and it's cool to watch. We can get some cool video watching these things dump in, but yeah, it's just it drives me nuts.
Right, and Randy Duncan says that he has the squirrel call, and he says it works great, and he'll be going after the grunt call, buying the grunt call next.
All right. Matter of fact, his boys got your squirrel call, and he took the boys out. They got their hunter safety certificate this year. And he took the boys out, and they got their first squirrel with it. So one was calling, the other one was shooting. So success.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I was going to say that the second most popular call, I think, was my squirrel at Woods and Water. Everybody loved that squirrel system with the bellow system on there. It was just a nice, deep bark call. Just, it was very popular this year.
Well, we're going to ask. Go ahead and run it. You got to hear it.
All right.
That's what we're here for. We want to hear it.
Sure.
The proof is in the sound.
So that's what this call looks like. And you get the chuckles out of too.
That is cool. I got to tell you, that is cool.
That's awesome. Again, Paul, if anybody wants to go look at your calls, your grunt calls, your squirrel calls, your goose calls, where can we go to find them?
That's www.jpogamecalls.com.
All right. Well, we know JPO game calls, but I got to throw this back up here real quick. On your name banner, we also got something that you had me put on. Get in the Wild. What's Get in the Wild? Talk about that.
So that was kind of my the moniker that I really try to follow. It means different things to different people. Get in the Wild could mean go out and hunt. You're going to get the wild. You're going to go get them, or it could mean just get outside, get in the wild, and spend time outdoors, because it's a great place to be.
Absolutely. So either way, whether you're going to get them and bring them home and put them in the pot, or just going out and just enjoying it, getting out there. It's not
necessarily about the hunt. It's not about the getting part, right? It's about being in the wild and being with friends and just having a good time with everybody. And
that's what Danny and I, we've always said, when you pull the trigger, whether it's on a bow or a gun or a crossbow, it takes a fraction of a second to send that arrow or that bolt or that bullet downrange. But the journey is what I love. It's always about the journey of getting from the end of season to the beginning of season until the moment you pull that trigger. All the hard work you put in, all the camaraderie with your friends, your family at camp, spending time at camp. To me, that's what it's all about.
Yep, absolutely.
That's like you said. The action itself takes a split second, but it might be the tracking of the deer, or recovering of the deer, or game, whatever you're out there, the squirrel, whatever. But it's that whole interaction that occurs that the success and of course later on down the road it'll be the stories that go all along with it that will
get stretched over time
a little bit.
Of course,
embellishments. That's good. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hey, that comes with the territory, I think. I tell you what, though, we're coming up here against our next break. When we come back, I kind of want to spend the last segment talking to you a little bit about.
You talk to him about Paul.
That's what I was going to say about you, about Paul, about the man, the hunter, and kind of pick your brain a little bit and just see about your hunting styles and how you grew up with it and all that. If that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
All right, we're going to step outside. We'll be right back after this.
Acceleration is part of PSE's DNA. PSE pioneered the speed movement. Now they've developed the vapor category to help you find the most powerful bows on the market to fit you.
High speed equates to intense power and building the momentum you need to be successful. Are you a vapor shooter? Find out at psearchery.com.
Welcome back. Last segment of the show. You guys miss it if you don't watch the live stream. You don't do on the podcast because we have the best time during the commercial breaks.
You're right, exactly. And we talked to Paul about his goose calls, his duck calls, his deer calls, his predator calls. He also does turkey calls as well with the pod call. But he's got something unique he does with his strikers. If you could really quick just go over what you do with this striker, which makes it different than really I've ever seen.
Sure. So I wanted to keep things unique, and I'm about modularity and being able to build what you want. The handle of my striker tip is kind of that's the part that identifies or keeps me, who I am. This is a taper lock design striker tip with the mating taper on the handle itself. Nice twist lock in, keeps it together, and then you just twist lock and break it apart. I've broken several of these things in my pocket. I forget about them. I'll put them in my back pocket, and I'll sit down after the hunt or during the hunt and to find out that I have two pieces. So that's really what inspired me to do something a little bit different. I can break them apart, I can put them in my pocket, and I can just move on. It also gives me the ability to have, instead of carrying multiple striker handles, carry different styles of wood. So the harder woods have a little deeper or a little higher pitch tone. The softer woods have a little bit of a lower, mellower type of tone. So you can tune the call to your ear based on just the different striker tips that you're interested in.
That's cool.
I've never seen anything like that.
No, exactly, and it kind of goes with his thought process, as you could tell, his modulars, and it just went right into the turkey call with a modular striker.
So as a kid, did you play with like tinker toys and Lincoln Logs and Legos all the time and build stuff?
Yeah, well, I had a bandsaw and a table saw. My dad would let me use that when I was 12. I don't think I ever got off the bandsaw. He never would let me touch the table saw, but I was always making rubber band guns and whatever, and that kind of turned into my day trade, which is now I'm an engineer. So yeah, that's what happens when you put engineers in front of things like this.
Yeah, I guess so. Do you have brothers or sisters?
I do. I have a younger brother. Yeah, he's in Ohio. We hunt together as much as we can. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So truth be known, how many times did he get popped with a rubber band gun?
Oh, frequent. Oh, there's still to this day probably fly spots all over the ceilings and the walls of Mom and Dad's garage too, from where it was just skid marks all over up there from shooting flies. But yeah, that was frequently occurring.
Oh man,
oh boy,
that's good stuff.
That right there, that's good stuff. And you know, and we've talked about JPO and everything, but now we kind of want to dig into you because we do this with everybody that we interview. So we got a few questions that we would like to ask you to kind of, just to get to know you and
sure.
And outdoorsy kind of guy, and you kind of range over different things: ducks, goose, deer. Your favorite hunt that if you're going to sit down and tell us your favorite hunting story, what would it be?
Oh man,
one that we can tell on air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the idea of where JPO Game Calls came from was really from my buddy Josh and myself, and we took we would hunt together. We hunted together for a number of years, and one particular hunt would probably stick out the best. He's in the front of the boat. We've got some ducks out front, divers, and they were low on the water, screaming across the bow. And I've got my decoys out in the front too, and he lets loose 3 shots, bang, bang, and blows up one of my decoys. And these are all herders, styrofoam plastic head, old school. My dad's 60s and 70s vintage, blows the head up off my decoy. And all I hear is whoops, and keeps on shooting after that. That one will stick with me forever. And the other one was probably it was just a calm, quiet day a couple years ago. We had just installed a canopy on our blind. It's a kind of a garage style blind. You drop the blind off and you pull your boat in and out. We put a canopy on it so that we wouldn't have to worry about the rain so much. It would protect us from movement in the blind. And it was a calm, kind of a foggy morning. The ducks weren't flying too much, but the rain cut loose, and we just sat there, just watching, just beautiful weather. Again, it wasn't necessarily about shooting all the ducks and bagging out as much as it was just a moment in time on a weekend when just everything stops and there's no pressure and there is no stress. It was just listening to the rainfall. That was probably one of my most memorable hunts as well.
Isn't it like that so often? It could be the time of year or the weather, and you're not seeing anything or you're not shooting game. It's about being in that moment. There's no cell phones, there's no work to worry about, there's nobody barking at you, whether it's the boss or your mom or your dad or your significant other. You hang out and you're just in that moment. That's cool.
Absolutely.
Right up that alley. For me, it's when I'm in the blind and it's those big snowflakes coming down.
Yeah, right.
And
there's no wind; they're just floating.
That's top notch right there. Okay, so we got your 2 most favorable hunts. So you've bagged your game. Your go-to meal. If you're going to cook a meal for us, what would be the go-to meal that you would prepare for us, wild game wise?
Oh man, I would probably have to cook a neck roast, venison neck roast.
How's it prepared?
Just like you would a typical roast in the oven. One of those, the blue stoneware. You don't want to do the crock pots and all that stuff. You want the old school blue stoneware type of a pot. Carrots and potatoes, Don't put the carrots in right away or the potato. Put those in about an hour before it's done. But you let that neck roast sit in about half an inch of water, a quarter inch of water on the bottom of the pan, all spiced up. Garlic, salt, pepper, some onions, and let that thing go for about 8 hours, just on a nice slow 225, something like that. Falls apart. Just if it's when it's done right, it will fall off the neck bone, and it's just absolutely fantastic. Make the juice in the gravy, bread, on top, kind of open face type sandwich. That's good eating right there.
That's it, huh? That's the meal.
Danny, we gotta quit doing this stuff, man, because I'm always left hungry.
I know, right? Well, matter of fact, I'm glad he said that, because I want to do a roast this week.
Okay.
So I might do it in the slow cooker though, because of time. Well, we'll see, but kind of go those lines.
Yeah, I gotta just guess that you're an old soul, because man, everything you refer to is back doing things the old way, doing things the traditional way. So I got to figure that you were brought up. Your parents must have brought you up with a lot of family tradition and values, and you keep reverting back to that. It seems like.
I do. It's what's comfortable. Is the good times. I can't really say I've ever had a bad memory with my family, and I really hope to instill that into my kids and to my family as well. So
that's awesome.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. You keep running with it.
Right, exactly. Good lead in. When you're running out to the blind, or you're running to your favorite duck hunting spot, you're in the vehicle, you're tooling down the road. What kind of music are you listening to? What kind of music kind of guy, or are you a podcast kind of guy? What do you like to listen to?
Oh man, so I'm a podcast kind of guy. Obviously, the Up North Journal is on my list.
Yeah. Okay. It is now, though, right?
I'm a music guy. I'm a music buff, and I do like to keep up with the kind of day-to-day music trends. So I will listen to the Drew and Mike podcast. I commute to Detroit for 20 years. Absolutely love the guys, and that's my music fix for the day is tuning in and listening to those guys.
Okay. Well, now, the last thing we're going to ask you, you're going to your blind, you're going out, whether it be hunting for ducks, geese, whether you're doing turkey or deer, whatever you're doing. Everybody's got a go-to snack that's either in the vehicle with them as they're going, or they've got it in their backpack for when they get there. What's your go-to snack?
So it's probably egg salad sandwiches on the opening day for my mom. That's what she cooks for. That's what she makes for us in the opener.
Okay.
After that, it's the jerky that my dad has made for forever. There's always a pack of that in the freezer. Great stuff. And then if it's not, it's Seaboing beer sticks. Nobody knows what a beer stick is, but I actually took a picture of them, and I can send them. I will post a picture of the package of beer sticks from Seaboing Luke's Market.
Okay,
they're
so
fantastic.
It's a local treat then from Seaboing.
It is. I highly recommend it.
Okay, for those of you who don't know where Seaboing is, look it up. It's in Michigan. That's all we're going to say.
Exactly.
And I got to imagine that's probably on the way to the duck blind.
That absolutely is. Yep.
Yeah,
Saginaw Bay. That's my stomping grounds for duck hunting.
That's what I figured. That's pretty cool. And back to the old tradition. I like that the egg salad sandwiches and the jerky. So yeah, dude, it's like that's awesome.
It is. He's a traditionalist.
Traditionalist.
Mom, dad.
Did your dad wear flannel when he went to the woods to deer hunt?
My dad wears flannel. I wear flannel. Actually, I was
knew
scrutinized for wearing flannel when I was in college.
I knew it. And I knew when you were telling that story about you and your buddy, when you said low on the water, I said, there's going to be a decoy shot in this story. I just knew it.
So you said low on the water. It's like,
And those old school ones they're not like the plastic where it just absorbs it. They're hard plastic. I mean, it was like powder. Just poof. It was just... It was gone.
No more.
I did. I think because my dad was a little bent because he still thinks that those are his decoys, and I think he actually unscrewed the head and gave it to him for a Christmas present, mounted it or something like that too. Something crazy.
That's good stuff, man.
But that's okay. So there you go. It's the memories and the stories that just look at that. Your dad, the comedian type of guy he sounds like, takes the head, mounts it, and gives it to him for a gift, saying, remember this?
Yeah. You're going to remember it now.
Right.
You're going to remember it now, yeah.
That's good stuff. Oh, man. Well, I tell you what, we're closing in on the end of the show here. We want to give you an opportunity to be able to tell people where they can find your game calls at. So give them the lowdown once again where they can go.
Absolutely. We're on www.jpogamecalls.com.
And you also have a Facebook page?
We have a Facebook page, JPO Game Calls.
Okay.
Yes, JPO Game Calls, and we're on Instagram as well.
He's looking off camera to the CFO.
Yeah, sometimes I don't remember very well.
I hear you. I know what you mean. Sometimes I get in the middle of these shows and I just lose total train of thought of where I was going.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, we really appreciate you sitting down here, spending some time with us, spending an hour with us. We got any other questions here before we go?
Just Kyle Sharp getting into my stomping grounds.
Okay, so he's up in that area.
He's up in Saginaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good deal. Well, I'll tell you, guys, if you're looking for a game call, make sure you give these guys a call. Go get a hold of Paul. I'm sure he's going to steer you into exactly what you need and help you out in that direction. So, get over and take a look and see what they've got to offer.
And get it ordered by the 15th. You'll get it 10%, and we'll have the code on Facebook, and we'll get it all squared away.
Now, is that for just the deer calls, or is that not for everything, or?
That's for our whole website, all of our product, our whole product line.
Okay, so you're holding over that show special that with that code.
And the code is going to be Up North Journal.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go.
All one word, Up North Journal.
Okay.
Through 11/15.
So there you go, guys and gals. He is he's offering you guys a bargain on the call. So get over there, check him out. Make sure that you use that code that he just said, and save you some money. But I tell you what, we looked at him when we were there, blown away.
That's right.
It's especially that Omni design. To me, that's just simply incredible. So, we wish you the best of luck with that, too. So, I tell you what, let's go ahead and we wrap up the podcast and hang on line real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit here after we get done wrapping up the show.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, Mike. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Glad to have you on and glad to talk with you. But that'll do it for us this week, folks, here on the podcast. Make sure you tune in again next week. Danny, you going to be up north or no?
Let's see. Next weekend is the last weekend of September. I'll be getting ready, packing. I'll be leaving that Friday after.
Okay, I think I'm heading up
You
just
gonna
for the
head
day. I
north?
think
Okay.
I'm heading up to camp, yeah. So I'm going to check a couple things out. But that'll do it for us this week, folks, on the podcast. Y'all tune in next week. And don't forget, you can catch us in syndication at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on GoodTalkRadio.com. This episode was brought to you by PSE Archery,
Spot Shooters Archery,
Easy Cut,
Packer Max,
Hunter's Blend Coffee,
Scent Lock,
Scent Blocker,
Lim Walker Game Calls,
Buck Baits,
Gut Check,
Stanislavski Release Aids,
Copper John,
Fourth Arrow Camera Arms,
Wind Sense Vapor Hunting Products,
and Rebel 6 Rubs.
Thanks for listening, and join us again here next week. Until then, remember, as we always like to say, if you're out on the water or in the woods, shoot straight and be safe until next week on the Up North Journal.